Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Art Side of Life, where it's all about how you can turn your creative passion into a profession. My name is Eva, and my guest today is an amazing illustrator, character designer, background, and visual development artist from California, United States. He graduated from Art Center College of Design in Pasadena in 2012 and now teaches concept design in the entertainment design program there. He's currently working on a Big Hero 6 series, a Disney TV animation. So please welcome Bryan Sims and let's get to the interview. So welcome everyone to the next episode of Art Side of Life, and I'm super happy to have Bryan here. Hi!
Hi, thanks for having me.
How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Good. And let's start talking about the background and some funny stories. We talked a bit before the recording as well. And maybe you can share some stories where you were creative as a child.
I was creative as a child. I was, I think I all started with my sister. I had a sibling rivalry. I think that's what got me into drawing and art, because I had an older sister who was better at everything than me. So I remember one day she drew a picture of the house and I wanted to be better than her at something. And I remember I tried doing it and it was terrible. But then I realized that I like drawing. And so I stuck to it and I got a little bit better and better and better until eventually I was better than her. So that was like I remember she's older than me, and the one that I did was almost to the same level as her, and she's 3 years older, and I was young, and I was like,
yes.
I think I got you. So that's how it started, and I was obsessed with Disney as a little kid. We grew up in Southern California, so we go to Disneyland maybe once a year, and it was always like unexpected when it happened. So it's like I'd always look forward to it. I never knew what was going to happen. My parents wouldn't tell me because I wouldn't sleep the night before. So it was like it could happen any day. I'd wake up like, it's today. And then I got to go to school.
It's like, no, that's not a good day.
No. But then I had a lot of friends that drew too in elementary school. And we would draw a lot of like Street Fighters and like Mortal Kombat. We would draw stuff like that. So I think that's where it started from. And then eventually in junior high and high school, I got really, really into Disney and got obsessed with like the 9 Old Men and Walt Disney. I was like the only like high school kid giving presentations on Walt Disney. The rest of the class were like trying to do something cool, and I was like, Walt Disney. But I think in high school I kind of realized I wanted to be in animation. I wanted to be an animator. And I went to the Cal Arts summer program, CISA, for high school students. And I really fell in love with animation there. And I think that's how my journey began.
And do you remember like the conversation with your parents or friends when you were like, okay, I want to take this like professionally?
I think it was expected from a lot of people. Everybody would say, oh, like you want to go work for Disney when you get older. And that was like my dream growing up, I want to work for Disney. Yeah. I think there was a time when my parents wanted me to more go get a job out of high school than to go to college and then go try to pursue this career, because when they were my age, I had kids, and like when they were in their early 20s, it was like, well, this is what I did. I grew, like once I graduated high school, we got married and had kids and got jobs, and like you should do that too. But I didn't want to do that. But I think most people, even my parents, knew that that's probably what I wanted to do.
Oh, cool. And was it difficult to get like a first job after college, or which were kind of like the biggest turning points or decisions what you had to do when you are like to get when you are now?
So I wanted to go to Cal Arts for animation, and then I decided against it and went to Art Center because I wanted to hand draw animation, and it was at a time that it was dying out, and I saw that everything was moving into 3D, and I saw that Disney was closing down studios in Paris and forget where the other, Florida. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to do 3D animation. I had worked in Maya and I didn't like it. So I went to Art Center instead because I realized that I really wanted to design. Mm-hmm. So I went to Art Center and went to their illustration program for entertainment arts and graduated in 2012. And I got a job. So when you graduate, they do this kind of like speed dating, but with interviews with companies. Mm-hmm. So I got a job right away. So I started 2 days after graduation doing illustrations for like toy packaging for characters mm-hmm. and for Skylanders and like a lot of like toy products. Yeah. And hated it. It was terrible. But that lasted only a couple months, and then I was out of luck for about 6 months. I had no work. I would get just like a random small like illustration job for like a week. Mm-hmm. And nothing really happened until I got an email from somebody. So also when I was at Art Center, I had done a book illustration for some company. They were looking for a student to do cheap work. And I thought it was a perfect opportunity to get experience. And the guy that wrote the book was working for an animation studio, and he liked my illustrations I did for the book and recommended me for this job at Renegade Animation, doing these little illustrations mm-hmm. for like their ABC mouse. It's like a preschool thing. So that's where it started. And then so I was getting work with that consistently until I got an email from Wild Canary, mm-hmm. which was a new animation studio. Mm-hmm. I guess one of the producers there had seen my work online, and I saw that they had been following me for a couple months, and I was like, and they were a producer there, and I was like, I wonder what they do. Mm. They brought me in for an interview for a new show that they were doing called Miles from Tomorrowland for Disney Junior. Mm-hmm. And they had me do a test for it, and they liked my tests, and they hired me on. I was the first artist that they hired on to the production of the show. Mm-hmm. So I came in as what's called a storybook artist, because there's no scripts really written at the point or at that time. They just kind of had like outlines for scripts, and they had me almost do like beat boards, like illustrating pitches that they would show to kids to make sure the story is going like smoothly and reading well. Yeah. And then once the show went into production, they moved me over to design. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the designs I did for the boards stuck to like the final characters and like some of the environments. Yeah. So they saw my potential, and then I got so basically someone found me online and through an Art Center website, and that's how I got the first job.
Oh, really cool. And so what was maybe like the best advice you ever received, and also maybe the worst advice like over time when you are building your art career?
Best advice was, especially during the tough time, is just to stick to it, because there was times in the 6 months that I just wanted to quit. Because a month or two goes by and you're sending out emails every day. I would just be cold calling emails, and like you finally hit a point where you're like, well, no one's writing me back. And I've written everybody I can write. I've tried for like every open position. Like I've tried for internships, junior positions, like anything I could apply for, I applied for. Mm. And the best thing I could have that I did is I just stuck to it. I went and I reworked my portfolio. I just kept working on my own work. And eventually I feel like I was improving, because when you graduate from college, a lot of people expect to be career ready or professionally ready, but that's not the case a lot of the times. So you still need to work on your stuff. If you even if you get hired right away, you should still be trying to improve. But I had those 6 months to really think about it, work on it, and rework my portfolio, and I think that kind of helped. I had an instructor at Art Center that I kept bringing my work back to, and he would kind of help me out. Um, the worst advice I got was I had an interview for it's like one of the movie poster company to do kind of like sketch art where you're sketching out movie posters. And the guy looked at my portfolio and he told me that I needed to go back to school and that the work that I was doing was irrelevant and nobody does that type of work anymore.
Nice.
And, yeah, and he said it was basically like a basic portfolio for animation. And what he was looking at, I guess it wasn't the right fit for their company, but what he was saying to me was the style of work that I was doing is like dead. I need to go back to school. I took the wrong major. He's like, we usually hire from this major at your school, not illustration. So that was the worst advice, telling me to go back to school.
And what would you advise young artists or young creators now when they are just building a portfolio and they want to go for either the studio or just if they want to do what you do now? What would you advise them to start with?
Being a young artist, I now there's a lot of small schools you can go to. The one thing that kind of bothers me is that I went to a really expensive school and I took out a lot of loans and I'm going to be paying them off for a long time. And you don't have to do that because now there's a lot of options. There's like CDA, there's LAFA, I think is one in LA. There's a lot of programs out here to get you started in that direction and to help you with your portfolio. Some of my teachers from Art Center teach at these places and at like CDA there's working professionals, so they know what they're looking at and what studios are looking for. So I would say those are a good option if you don't want to do the big Cal Arts, Art Center, because I've met people in animation that didn't go to these big schools. Like you don't have to go to like these brand name schools. And then my advice would just be what I was constantly told when I was a student is just to keep drawing everything around you and just don't stop doing it. Always have a sketchbook with you.
And what about the portfolio? Like if I want to go work for Disney or other studio, how would you build your portfolio? How many pieces maybe would you put there? Or what, would you look for if you are hiring someone for like a team with you?
Well, what I've heard is there's like a golden number, like 24 pages, I think is the good amount to have. I tend to have like 32. Mine's all over the place. But especially I work at Disney TV animation, so everything there is very separated. So know what you want to do coming in because they have different positions. If you want to paint, there's background painting and there's a color stylist who paints all the props and characters. There are designers, there's prop designers, character designers, background or layout. So go in with a strong portfolio geared towards one of those. They get kind of confused when they look at my work because I like to do everything. I like to draw, I like to design characters and backgrounds, and I like to paint them, and and they don't really do that at Disney TV. So if you want to be a character designer, draw a lot of characters, make sure that your shapes are being pushed, the characters are being pushed, there's good gesture, good poses, have life drawings in it, a lot of figure drawing. I go to figure drawing workshops weekly to try to improve, and I struggle every time. But background painting, I would say have backgrounds, painted backgrounds, but also paint from life. Go to parks or go somewhere with interesting lighting and paint it. And depending on what you want to do, gear your portfolio towards that and have a lot of that. It's like don't have a bunch of backgrounds if you want to be a background painter and then throw in some characters. gets confusing to the person that's looking through your portfolio.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And do you have like a favorite tool? What do you work with? Like favorite pencil or like, I don't know, Intuos or Cintiq when you're creating your, artworks?
Command Z would probably be the, I'm doing prop design on at Disney, and I'm working on Big Hero 6. So there's a certain style that everything has to have.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm constantly just doing the same line over and over and over till it's perfect, or like certain curves, or like like that's not my favorite tool, but it's one I use the most. There's brushes that I love to use in Photoshop,
Mm-hmm.
but traditionally, my favorite thing to draw with is what's it called? It's the color erase
Mm-hmm.
pencils,
Yeah, yeah.
but the I think it's the Tuscan red.
Mm-hmm. And then
When I
there
was
is
in
like an indigo blue everyone is using, the red and the blue.
Oh yeah, I don't like that one. I like the Tuscan red.
Good.
And so when I was in school, I wanted just my work to have that, and I would go in and I would buy all the Tuscan reds every couple of days. They would get new ones in. I would just buy them because I would go through them. I would use them a lot, and I get really upset if I go in there and there was none. I wouldn't buy them all, but I'd buy like a majority of them. But that one, that specific color, Tuscan red, I love it. I miss drawing traditionally because I have a different style when I draw traditionally than when I'm working on a Cintiq, because like when you're drawing with a pencil, you're drawing sideways.
Yeah.
So the Cintiq, you can't really do that. You have to be very direct and.
That's true. That's true. And do you also have like a favorite sketchbook you take around with you, or when you are in cafes drawing people, or?
So I'm teaching right now. My TA just got me this little one, and it's so nice. I don't know what it is. Pentalic. It's really, really nice.
Oh,
It's small. Yeah. But usually, right now I'm going through. I got this it's pretty nice moleskin. I think those are really great. But then there's ones that they have at the school that I haven't been able to find anywhere else. But I just started teaching there again, so I need to go back and look. But it hasn't been since I've been at school. I think they're like 12 by. Not 14, 12 by 16. They're pretty big.
Yeah, that sounds like giant sketchbook.
Yeah, and the pages have a certain feel. I don't know what brand it is. It could be like a Canson, maybe. But it's pretty big, and they're the ones that have the spiral bound, so you can flip it, but the hardcover.
Yeah. So
it's
you
a black
can actually hold. Yeah. I don't know what is the name, but I know. I think I can find it. We can put it in show notes afterwards.
Yeah, I get really excited when I walk in and I see it, and I'm like, oh, I gotta buy it, because I like to draw. I like to draw pretty big and just explore, and I like to fill pages with just dirty sketches, like rough sketches, and that gives me kind of the room to do it. But also, the paper has a really nice feel when you use those terracotta red Prismacolors.
And do you have a favorite thing you always do when you're designing characters, or maybe what is the thing you kind of learn over the years? What is the most important?
Well, the thing I do the most when I'm drawing characters is I'll make the expression when I'm drawing it, and I don't realize I'm doing it. I notice a lot of times I used to sit around the story artist at the last place I was at, and you could see when they're trying to draw certain expressions, they do it too. It's like you're trying to feel where your muscles are pulling.
And the sounds as well.
Yeah. When I'm doing characters, I don't know if this is good or bad. I always start with the heads. I always try to get good head shapes. But that's something I would do as a student too. And I would always draw to here, to the chest and up, and it always looked like I was scared to draw the rest of the body, but usually I try to figure that out. Sometimes I'll just start with basic shapes for the bodies. Usually there's a story moment. If I'm doing an illustration and there's characters in it, I'm usually not thinking too much. I'm thinking about the design, but I'm more interested to see what's the best way I can pose these characters in a way that tells the story that I'm trying to tell. And usually when I'm doing illustrations, I have a short amount of time because I'm doing it in my free time. So I could probably spend a lot more time designing each element out. If I had all the time in the world, I would do that. I would design the characters, I would design the background out. But instead, I do these rough sketches and drawings, and then I tighten those up a little bit and I'll paint them. So when I'm doing the characters like that, it's more like how a storyboard artist would draw. They're very scratchy, very rough, and just trying to get the gesture and poses right, rather than focusing on the entire design of the.
So when you have like I don't know, bad character, do you always use like I don't know, sharp shapes and then these like angry pose and all of that classic stuff?
Sometimes working on Big Hero 6, the style is very sharp. All the characters have a very like sharp. There's a lot of overlapping lines, like so I tend to be like, when I draw now, if I'm just drawing characters, I'll tend to do that. All my characters lately that I've been sketching, they're all very sharp. But then I have to snap myself out of it, because that's just the style that I've been working on like all day. And sometimes they're sharp. Sometimes I like to keep them very. If it's a bad guy, I like drawing kind of like heavier, like one of my favorite villains growing up was Mad Madam Mim, and she's not very sharp. She's very round and like she's kind of wacky. And I think I like to design, if I'm doing villains, that they have that sort of sense to it. Like they're kind of silly and not these just like dark, evil. Like I could never work in video games because I'd probably just make everything very silly and not very like intimidating or scary.
Yeah, so they wouldn't be like too dark or like the whole dark world and everything.
Yeah, but I don't remember what the quote is, but it's like villains aren't really bad guys; they're just like misunderstood, or
they always have the reason for it. So yeah.
Yeah, they're really not that, like Captain Hook, Peter Pan, just picking on him all the time. Like
yeah.
Like you actually should feel bad for these guys in the end.
That's true. I agree. And
I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to ask about some book recommendations or some other places to learn from. As you mentioned already, some schools, and then people have so many options about maybe character design. Like, what would you give as a gift, maybe?
What would I give as a gift? One of my favorite books. I'm sitting by my books. I'm trying to look. A book that I use a lot during Art Center and a little bit after is I was obsessed with Peter DeSive. And he has a book, A Sketchy Past, I think it's called. It's a big, thick book. That book is always, there's character designs in it, illustrations, and you see his sketches to like the final illustrations. That's probably been my favorite book to look at. Like over the years, I still love, like, if I'm not feeling very inspired, I usually will turn to books, and that's one that I go to a lot. Also those Disney, what are they called? These books, the Disney Archive series. I love these books. These are great. The whole set. I would give these as gifts. You can see I use it a lot. There's a lot of
notes.
Yeah.
So what is it you are looking for in the book when you are doing the notes? Do you look for the pose or the story moment, or what do you mark?
Sometimes I love the way that somebody painted something. So it's probably like a lot of like Ivan Earl. It's like tagged in there. It depends. Like in the animation one, it's all poses, but I'll tend to put little things on poses that I do like. I like to do backgrounds and I like to do characters. So like anything that inspires me, I'll tag it, unless I'm doing a specific project and I'm like, oh, I could use this towards what I'm doing. Like if I'm doing like small town. Like a lot of times, I keep trying to. Sometimes I'll give myself little assignments, like stories.
Yeah.
So like I'll do like Tom Sawyer. Like I've read the book, so like I'll try to design the little town that is in, or like a general store from that era, and then I'll like a lot of times I'll pull from whatever movie can fit that most. Sometimes it's live action, but like Lady and the Tramp has a nice feel to it. That's a little bit modern, but some of the town, like the shots of like the train yard, are really nice. And so stuff like that. If it fits the world that I'm trying to think of, I'll tag it. And I'll see what they did and how they used it and what kind of lighting they have, and
Yeah.
how they frame certain images.
And what about the projects you are working on now, and something maybe exciting coming up, which you can share, which is maybe not confidential anymore?
um, I'm doing tests for other shows at Disney right now, but so I can't really talk about those. I am working on Big Hero. We're coming to the end of the first season,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm excited for that to come out. I think the show looks amazing. There's a lot of really really good artists that are working on it, and the story is really really good. If you like the movie, you'll like the show. I think it comes out November,
Mm-hmm.
so or a couple months from now, so November 2017, and I've seen a couple of the first few episodes, and I love it. Like if I didn't work on it, I would watch it.
It's like, yeah,
That's always the
even if I
best.
wouldn't work on it, it's good.
Yeah, it's good. And then the thing I'm most excited for right now is I just started teaching at Art Center
Hmm.
in the entertainment design program. So I mean, if there's any young students out there that or young artists that are looking for a school to go to, you can go to Art Center.
Perfect. And
Um,
when do you start there?
so we are in the middle of week 2. So
Okay.
I have class Monday nights. So I've had 2 classes so far.
Oh,
The
perfect.
first one went terribly. It was my first time teaching, and the last one went way better.
And so you will have it all the time once a week, and it will continue this year, next year, so people can sign up also later on, or they always have to sign up like now or in a half a year.
Well, for Art Center, you have to you have to apply to the school and be accepted into it's the entertainment design major.
Mm-hmm.
They have a new animation track
Okay.
where they're kind of gearing it where you can make your own little films and stuff. And I'm teaching second term students, so it's kind of like a foundational class, and it's called Concept Design. It's going to be called Concept Design 2 because they have 1 and 2. So if you do decide to go to Art Center, it's through that track. Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Cool.
It's once a week, and I wanted to do it this first semester and see if I'm even any good at teaching. So far so good. Like I think they're understanding. I got their first homework assignment back this week, and they came back with really good work, and I like the direction that it's going. So hopefully it just gets better and better, and then I can continue this moving forward.
And what about your personal projects? Are you creating some new art prints or other stuff people can get from you, or some online classes you will share later on maybe?
I don't know anything about online classes. I've done CTN once,
Mm-hmm.
so I have. it was. I still have prints from that, but I currently don't have anywhere where you can like purchase them. Usually, people are just kind of messaging me if they're interested in a print, and then I just settle it that way. I'll send it to them. But current projects between work and the class are both taking up just about all my time. So if I get any little time to do like just a quick sketch or a quick character or an illustration, I try to fit it in. I'm trying to do the assignment with the class to kind of give them examples of what I would do if I was taking the class as like little demos.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only real thing that I am constantly working on outside of work. But it's maybe like once a week I'll do like an illustration and I post it to my Instagram and my Tumblr.
Yeah.
I try to post once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. I'm not too much on top of it.
And how do you do networking if you are like not super active on social media? How do you find the new paid projects, or like as you said, like okay, when you are going for this main job type, or kind of what do you live from as well?
Well, I live from, I have those two jobs.
Yeah.
So those are like my main source of income. And typically I hear of other jobs through friends from school. Like we're all working in the animation industry. So I have friends that are at Cartoon Network and DreamWorks and Wild Canary. I have friends there. I mean, you'll start to, the longer you work in the industry, like everyone kind of spreads out and you'll kind of have feelers everywhere. Like you'll know somebody somewhere eventually. So if job postings do come up, you can always talk to your friend about it that's at that studio.
Like, hey.
Yeah. I hate to be that person, so I try not to do that. But sometimes you have to do that. I realize a lot of times knowing somebody who works on the show or knows someone that does work on the show is a much better way of getting a job than to just apply through their website. Or it's good to know who you're talking to and to have a good recommendation from somebody.
Yeah. So
that's how I got the job at Disney. Is I have a friend that was working there and she happened to know someone that was on Big Hero.
So it's good to know people and just talk to others and just make connections, and they also know you, right? So they know how you work and what is your kind of like work discipline and like your other like art styles and stuff, so they can actually recommend you in a good way.
Yeah, I think it's much easier once you're in once you get your first job. It's much easier moving forward to get more jobs. It's just getting that first job that seemed like the toughest thing in the world. It was like I just wanted to get my foot in the door anywhere, and then I would work hard there and just hopefully like do well and make a lot of connections and but just getting to that first job that's always the tough part.
So then we just have to keep motivated and just go through that beginning.
Stay motivated, stick to it. don't give up on it.
And what would be the thing you kind of wish you knew before you started the whole art career, or kind of like advice to young self?
Maybe the thing that I talked about before is you don't have to go to a school like Art Center to get into animation, that there's different roads to get there. That's like a financial advice that I give my younger self, being like, you don't need to get loans out to, or you don't have to like get loans for the next 10-15 years.
Yeah, definitely.
Just to get into this industry, that there's like other ways to get in. But maybe it's as tough as I thought it would be. It's one of those things that I'm still working on and working towards. I'm still not where I would like to be. So that motivates me and is driving me forward in my career. I'm hoping that it's going to lead, where I'm at now is going to lead to something where I do want to be.
Yeah, that sounds really good. And I wanted to ask you about like if there is something which simplifies your life, something you bought recently, or like a tool, medium, or software.
No. I don't know. That's a tough question. There's nothing I've gotten recently. There is something that I do want to get. Is I want to get the iPad Pro, the one that you could draw on.
Yeah.
I think once I get that, then I could say, yes, I got the iPad Pro. It's so cool, and I draw on it all the time.
So you can go outside and just draw everywhere.
Yeah, it sounds amazing, because I remember with my phone, or I have an older iPad, and they had little stylus like a stylus that you could buy for it that you could use to draw,
Yeah.
and it was terrible. It like it did not work at all. So I have a friend at work that has the iPad Pro, and I've seen it, and I've like drawn with it, and it's really nice. It's like using a Cintiq.
Yeah. I need to
So
still try it as well.
yeah, I was this week. I keep thinking about it. I need to go to Apple Store, and I want to look at them and just kind of explore them. I want to trade mine in and get a new one. So that's the tool that I'm looking most forward to getting. And it's also really nice to show your portfolio on the screen. Is beautiful. Like the desktop looks amazing on it compared to the iPad that I have.
Yeah, because I also have the old one, and I still want to try this iPad Pro because it's like everyone is talking about it in a good way. So I'm like, yes. And
yeah.
And what about the future? Let's talk about the future. And in like 5 to 10 years, what would you imagine like yourself doing? What would be your dream scenario if you are not afraid of anything and everything is going according to plan?
If 5 years from now, I think I would like to have worked in feature animation. That's always been my goal from like as a kid, to be working in feature, whether it's at a small studio or Disney or Sony, like anywhere. I have a dog, keeps scratching. She's throwing me off. But I would like to be working in feature animation. I like to. The first job that I had working on Miles from Tomorrowland, I was doing like viz dev on the show. I got to paint backgrounds, and I got to do characters, and I got to do I had the freedom to explore and design, and I really miss doing that. I do really love working at Disney, but they're not structured that way to work like that. They're very efficient. Like one person does this, pass it, someone else does it, finishes it. And I miss having control of my designs. And I know that like in feature that's the type of job that I would like to be doing. So hopefully in 5 years from now, I could be working there. I'd love to still be teaching. Yeah, I think that's like the dream still for me. That's what I'm working forward to.
It sounds good. Sorry, I was just looking at your dog as well. I was like running back and forth. And
she was so good the first half, and now she's just wandering around.
And what about like far future, like 100 years from now? What would you like to be remembered for?
Maybe I'll still be alive. Technology, and I'll look like Yoda. I'll just be this tiny old artist man that's just shaking and drawing still. Well, the thing that I feel most rewarded, or I'm just realizing, is I do like, even though I'm 2 weeks in, I like teaching. I think that's more rewarding than when I post something and it gets a certain amount of likes, or like I'm not doing something for me. I'm doing something to help other people and hopefully help them achieve their goals. I think that if I could influence people that way, and somehow part of me, whatever I teach them, they teach somebody else, and that spreads, that'd be great. I'm not so much worried about my own work being like still around in 100 years. I'm sure everything's digital. Hopefully everything's still digital then, and they'll be like pulling up they'll pull up Tumblr, Instagram, and they'll be like Zanga.
Abstract everything,
yeah, like, well, what is this?
And before we say goodbye, maybe you can share like last piece of advice or guidance, and then we'll finish the interview. I
guess just what I've said before is just stick to it. If you're out of school and you're at that in between place, trying to find the first job, just stick with it, and just keep working on your own artwork. Just keep trying to get better every day.
Perfect. I love it.
Draw every day, paint every day. Just do something every day to help move you towards your goal.
Yes. Practice. Good. I like it. Perfect. And thank you so much again for being here. It was so much fun. And yeah, super cool.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks everyone for watching or listening, and see you in the next episode. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and let me know in comments. Also, please subscribe to my channel for more videos because I post new interview every single workday. You can also find the resources mentioned in this episode at artsideoflife.com. Just type a guest name in the search bar. There is also a little freebie waiting for you, so go check it out. If you want to listen to the interviews on the go, make sure to check out the podcast episodes at artsideoflife.com/podcast. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and don't forget to inspire each other. I will see you guys in the next episode.